was real great news today, actually. Apparently, Nigerian sprint sensation Kanyinsola Ajayi has signed a professional deal with global sportswear giant Adidas, which marks a major step in the Nigerian sprinter's professional athletics career. Now, what this means for him, because Ajayi confirmed the development while announcing a new chapter in his professional journey with the German sportswear company. The athlete expressed gratitude for the opportunity, saying he was excited to continue his professional track and field career with Adidas. The agreement provides Ajayi with another platform to compete at the highest level of international athletics while further strengthening his profile on the global stage. The partnership also represents a significant milestone as Ajayi continues to build his career under one of the world's leading sports brands. We're being joined by a good friend of mine, and he's also the country manager of Making of Champions, Deji Ogeyingbo. He joins us all the way from Atlanta in the United States of America. Deji, thank you for coming through tonight on Game On, and I'm sure you must have received this particular piece of news with a lot of enthusiasm because it's quite interesting what Kanyinsola Ajayi has achieved in just a few years.
I mean, it's pretty interesting to see things like this, considering the turnover rate of athletes that go through the NCAA system. And although some might still run professionally but don't have a professional contract, that's a different conversation again, where track as a sport, there's a very thin layer between running as an amateur and running as a professional athlete, right? And that's because the pinnacle of the sport is the Olympics. And I mean, a layer down, you talk about the World Championships. And in both major competitions, you run for your country. So at that point, there's never been a major differentiator between running as an amateur and running as a professional. Now, of course, people would say that if you're running as a professional or competing as a professional sportsman, one of the major ways for you to make money has to be through endorsements. And for track stars, you'd have to be literally in the top 5 or top 10 of your sports to be able to get a deal from any of the major brands. And that's why you see it as a rare thing for Nigerian athletes to get, because a few of them would perhaps not even make the NCAA finals. Talk more of having to even win a medal. Ajayi is a double NCAA medal. Is a double NCAA medalist when it comes to competing at the NCAA. He won the gold medal indoors and won the gold medal outdoors in the 100 meters. He also won 2 double gold medals on the 4x100 meters for the Auburn Tigers. I mean, he's won the Prefontaine Classic, he's won the London Diamond League. He also had an NIL deal with Adidas in his last 2 years of college, which is very rare for international athletes if you know the way they had to navigate the whole thing. So, I mean, I spoke to his close pal a couple of hours ago, Israel Ofon, who's been struggling with injury. He also almost turned professional football. I mean, his inner circle told him to just wait 1 more year and not forgo his eligibility. So what this invariably means is that he's still not done with school at Auburn, but he forgoes his track scholarship, right? But he still has a student scholarship. So he's going to have to still train with Ken Arden in Auburn, while still schooling at Auburn, but competing as a professional athlete.
Okay.
Right.
I just wanted to be clear about that, because there was talk about how he was going to have to drop out of school in order to compete professionally. But you're telling us that he's still competing while still studying for his degree, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Ajayi came to Auburn in the fall of 2023, so he should be a junior. He should be in his junior year now. So he's still got 1 more year to go in school. So he's still going to get a full scholarship. But what that entails is that he still has to train with the track school. That's in Auburn. And Ken Arden now obviously is still the overall head coach. Since Laura Burrell moved from Auburn to Texas A&M, so he's still going to remain there. It's still the same. Okay. It's the same model. Udodo Nwozurike, when he finished from Stanford and turned professional, I mean, he didn't finish. He still stayed 1 more year when he finished at Stanford, and he went to train with Lance Broman at the track club over there in Florida too. So the thing with track sponsorship or endorsement is it's literally a very gray area. We don't know the numbers, and that's because the brands do it in such a way that because there's so many athletes in the pool.
Deji, sorry to cut you short, Deji, right? So I was actually going to come to that next, because the figures were never released, right? But from our findings, there's a kind of tiered system for athletes across the world. For superstars, the likes of Usain Bolt, they get between $2 and $10 million. Usain Bolt famously earned an estimated $10 million at his time with Puma. We also heard that Noah Lyles also signed an extension with Adidas that actually even makes it the richest track contract since Bolt's retirement. And there's the elite world class who earn between 200,000 and $1 million. And there's also the competitive who are the mid-tier who earn between 30,000 and 100,000. And there's the developing athletes who earn basically nothing. They just get equipment and they earn as high as 15,000. What category does Kanyinsola Ajayi fall in? Is he a superstar? Is he an elite world class athlete? Is he a competitive or mid-tier, or is he a developing athlete?
Of course, he's not developing. This is someone that's won the NCAA title, won the Prefontaine Classic, also won the London Diamond League too. So he's obviously not also in the superstar category. He hasn't won a world title, an Olympic title. So I'll leave it to your guests to decide the category he's in.
No. You're the expert. You're the expert. You tell us, what category does he fall into?
Definitely the second tier. Definitely the second tier. This is someone that's been offered deals since last year, right? And I mean, it's been advised to remain on running. Offered him a deal. Nike offered him a deal. Of course, Adidas, they decided to go with them primarily because he already signed an NIL deal with them. But I mean, they just have the first right of refusal if they don't give him something that he is worth. So we're looking at something. Also, the number of years matters again. So we're looking at something in the region of say $300,000 to say $500,000 for about a 3 to 5 year deal. I heard he actually signed a 6-year deal with them, which is a long-term contract. Let's also not forget that there's also the pool for each continent. Right, so for Adidas now, they've got a budget for the African continent. They've got for the Americas, they've got for Europe, right? And it depends on the budget they have for the African continent. So for the African continent, we've got Ferdinando Manyala, we've got Akane Simbine. These are the two world-class sprinters in Africa that are sponsored by Adidas at this point in time. So what it means is that it's taking a large pool of that money, depending on performances too. So you definitely put him in that pool of between $200,000 and $500,000 for between the 4 or 6 year deal. And of course, they pay them quarterly. It's also subject to performances, right? You have to run a sub 10 seconds every year. You have to compete at some certain number of diamond leagues. You have to win an African title. You have to get to the Olympic final, get to the World Championship final, depending on all the clauses. And that's why you get to see someone like Toby Amuson always at this meets national trials, because it always triggers some bonuses depending on the amount, right? That's in the amount. There's also the chance to extend the contract too. So it's always a very gray area, right, when it comes to track and field. But no doubt, the cream de la cream that you talked about, the Sha'Carri Richardson, the Noah Lyles, the Sidney McLaughlin Levrone, the Femke Balls, these are the super elite athletes, the Mondo Duplantis, right? These are the ones that are over the $1 million tier, and they've proved it over the years, being world champions and being Olympic champions.
Okay, finally, Deji, before I let you go, I need to ask, what does this do for Kanyinsola Ajayi's career? And how far do you think this can help boost his career? Because a lot of people were actually disappointed that he wasn't a Commonwealth champion in Glasgow just a few days ago. How far, what is his ceiling like?
His ceiling is pretty high. Kanyinsola, when he gets to his peak, is a 9.7 athlete. That's 9.7 seconds athlete. I mean, I wasn't surprised with the Commonwealth Games, right? And if I'm to even go ahead and make a prediction, I don't expect him to do much at the World Ultimate Championships. And that's because running as an amateur in the NCAA and running as a professional are two different things. His coach has programmed him to peak at his biggest in terms of his body at the NCAA championships, and that's why you saw him run 9.84 consecutively for 3 times, win the London Diamond League in early July, win the Prefontaine Diamond League too. So his body had peaked already. So compared to professional athletes who are conditioned to peak towards the end of the season, which is the Olympic Games or the World Championships, and for this year it's the World Ultimate Championships too. So, but no doubt about that, he's got the talent. His head is in the right place. He's got the consistency, and he's proved it with his numbers. He's got the most number of sub 10 seconds for any Nigerian athlete in history. He's broken the Nigerian record of Soji Fasuba, right? But let's not make any mistake. He's not the first to do this. We had Divine signed with Puma in 2019, right? But I mean, I would say perhaps the stars didn't align for him. Maybe the training camp he went to join in Florida, right, was his major undoing. But I mean, so many factors, but no doubt about that. If you judge by how he's done in his career, that's Kanyinsola, how he's at the level head. He's done things the right way while running for Auburn Tigers and going into the professional circles. It's still going to be running with Ken Arden, who understands his body well. I mean, the start should be a starting point, no doubt about that.
Okay, Deji Ogeyingbo, handsome and articulate as always, and always very knowledgeable. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Game On. Always a pleasure to see you. Wishing you a wonderful weekend. We'll catch up later when there's much more to talk about on the athletics front. Thank you so much, Deji.
It's a pleasure, Tunde. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about the Commonwealth Fencing Championships that ended today in Lagos. The National Sports Commission has placed 17-year-old Ogeyingbo Thompson in its elite category A for grants ahead of the Olympic Games. The announcement was made by the National Sports Commission Director General Bukola Olopade today, who said the Commonwealth Under-23 EP champion will now receive $10,000 quarterly training grant. Eshowa Thompson was also awarded $5,000 for winning Nigeria's first ever gold medal at an international fencing tournament. Silver medalists received $2,000 each, while bronze medalists got $1,000. The National Sports Commission also gifted Nigeria's wheelchair fencing team $10,000 for their participation and exploits. The six-day Commonwealth Championships hosted by Rugby School Victoria Island, Nigeria and Victoria Island, ended in style, with India topping the medal table with 20 gold, 17 silver and 16 bronze medals. England finished second and Nigeria placed third overall with 1 gold, 3 silver and 13 bronze medals, emerging as Africa's best performing nation amongst 20 countries. Let's take a listen to the golden boy himself, Ogeyingbo Thompson.
The 11 years of my hard work and dedication finally paid off. I know I'm going to use that 10 grand very well to help to push me into that 2028 Olympics, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make my country proud.
Right, I'm being joined now by Toyin Ibitoye and the good friend of the house, Dick Paul. They join remotely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming through tonight. Toyin, let me start by saying congratulations to you. You're in celebratory mode today because I believe your beloved wife is a year older, so that's why you ditched us and you went for cake. But Dick Paul, thank you so much for coming through tonight as well. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while, actually. But gentlemen, so you see what the National Sports Commission is doing with this young man. He's won a gold medal. Is this a case of throwing money at him again? Because, well, I mean, this is, he's quite, he's basically what you'd call the 1% of the 1%. He's not, doesn't go to Omolorobo Grammar School, no disrespect to them, but his parents and his family can afford to fund and, help propel his career. Is it the case of the National Sports Commission throwing money at athletes again, which they've been blamed for, especially over the last few months? Dick Moore?
Yes, certainly. You know, when I first heard his accent, I was like, no, he doesn't seem like he's one of us, right?
He's one of us. He's one of us.
I mean, it's pretty sad to see. I agree with you. I think that argument of the NSC throwing money, is something they constantly do when we find a diamond in the rough like this. And we probably did not even contribute much to the person's progression. Whereas we could be doing some very developmental stuff that helps discover even more talent. But then what do you say? Because when these guys come and they represent us and they win gold, do we say we also do not support them? But honestly, for where we are in Nigeria, I think that we should be spending these monies developing, the raw talents that we have, or at least giving a bit of exposure, which we've actually seen the NSC do, to their credit, under the DG and the chairman, right? We've had a number of our coaches go for different training camps in recent months. But yes, I would prefer that we spend this money developing the right talents and find a way to balance things for those who already have that exposure or that level of work. Because that guy's English is even better than mine, and that I don't take lightly, because I had a mother who was an English teacher.
Well, throwing in the shit. But Toyin, your thoughts on this? Is more money a bad idea, or is it the fact that the National Sports Commission has too much money to spend and they are throwing it around recklessly. We did hear stories of at the Commonwealth Games, you were there, where we're hearing that the National Sports Commission officials were yelling out in the hall, urging athletes on that, if you do this, I give you $2,000. If you give this, do that, I give you $3,000. It seems there should be a more, do I say, sophisticated way in order to motivate athletes, yeah?
Yeah, talking about this, Spencer, it is important for us to understand the philosophy around elite athletes and the training grants that they get. You know, there are categories, and if you show that you have the quality to be A grade, gold medal winning athlete, there should be something commensurate as your training grants. You know. So it doesn't matter if your parents are very wealthy or not, provided you are not representing your parents, you are representing Nigeria, then Nigeria should take care of you and should provide that training grant. It is statutory that there should be some training grant for you. If you get additional support from your parents, fine, excellent, that's good, takes nothing away. It complements whatever is coming from the National Sports Commission. But if you are an athlete for Nigeria, with the potential of being A grade, then you should get something from the National Sports Commission, from Nigeria, as training grants.
Okay.
And it is tailored at ensuring that you keep improving, you keep maintaining a certain standard and keep getting better so that you can be amongst the podium finishers after a certain number of years towards a major competition like the Olympics in 2 years, and maybe the, I don't know whether fencing is part of the Africa Games, but it is tailored at ensuring that you maintain that standard. If you drop from that standard, the amount of funding you get drops.
Okay.
But if you keep to that standard and keep improving, ideally, there's a lot of science and data to this, because this young man has the potential of getting better. So the more you meet the targets that show that you are getting better, your funding will improve. And it's not just fencing, it's across all sports.
Okay, that's,
you know, so,
well noted.
And then the, yeah, okay, Tunde, yeah.
Okay. Very well noted.
Let me pause for here for now.
Sorry,
Yeah.
there's so much to get through tonight. But gentlemen, let's also look at the world of athletics again. President Sebastian Coe of World Athletics has come out to say that he will defend the governing body's sanctions against Russia at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Russia's Athletics Federation has filed a new challenge against the restrictions imposed in March 2022 following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, describing them as selective and politicized. World Athletics confirmed in July that the ban on Russian and Belarusian athletes would remain in place, despite the International Olympic Committee allowing Russian athletes to compete in team events and qualifying competitions for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. Coe insists that World Athletics' position is about sporting integrity rather than politics or nationality, and he says the International Federation must determine eligibility rules for its sports and will defend that principle in court. Other sports bodies, including World Gymnastics and the International Skating Union, have eased restrictions on Russian competitors. Dikwa, I have to come to you again because this is intense hypocrisy as far as I'm concerned. And the reason why I'm saying that is because everybody knows about the Russian aggression on Ukraine. It's very well documented. It's going on. But there's also the Israeli depredation on Palestine. Israel has killed more people in their depredations on Palestine than has ever happened since the Second World War. And probably 8 times more people have died in that conflict than what has happened in Ukraine and Russia. Yet, Israeli athletes continue to compete unfettered across the world. Even some members of the IDF that have been involved in these killings also participate in these international competitions. Yet, you hear Sebastian Coe say that, let me quote him, the World Athletics position is about politics rather than nationality. Sorry, about sporting integrity rather than politics or nationality. Yeah. It's ridiculous, if you ask me.
I think, my brother, you need to understand that I think the clear difference probably has to be that Ukraine did nothing, right? You have that at the back of your mind because as somebody who's involved in this, you had a lot of immigrants in Ukraine. This is a tussle over what? I'm not even sure what we really are calling it today. Is it land? Is it power? Is it the NATO movement? That's really what spurred Russia. So it's unjustifiable for Russia as far as the whole world is concerned. When you look at Israel's war, right, and we're not going to go all the way back to the Bible days because I can do that. But if you just look at it right now, Israel is in the middle of a lot of, quote unquote, they say enemies. And a lot of them sponsor these attacks, in different places. So it's a bit of a dicey conversation, right? And honestly, ultimately, I look at politics as something, particularly at the global stage, that is above our pay grade. Because you ultimately read history and you realize that a lot of all these wars are started by one man or one woman or some issue that's coming up, somebody feeling disrespected sometimes, and these things just happen. Now, for Cole and Russia, you need to understand that we all agree that Russia, they didn't have any reason, to invade Ukraine.
Okay, but Israel has a reason to kill almost 100,000 people without any form of backlash. That's what you're saying?
I see. I don't talk about this Israel matter for good reason, because this one has been going on for many, many years, right? And obviously between Hamas, Al-Qaeda, there are too many things that you've read in the news that is uncertain, right? You don't really know what the truth is. You and I have lived the Russia and Ukraine one for the better part of the last couple of years, even the tensions that led up maybe 5-10 years before this invasion started, right? So honestly, as analysts, sports, how do we possibly give our opinions on this matter rather than to say whether it's Israel and Palestine or Russia and Ukraine? I don't want to see the lives of young men and women, young boys and girls, just get ended simply because two men or a couple of men want their egos stroked, because that's ultimately what it always seems to be.
Well, it seems to be only young men and women, but Israel has also been indiscriminately killing women and children as well. Almost 400 footballers have also died in that conflict as well from Palestine, and even FIFA has said nothing. But it's quite interesting to see that, Dikpo, you are not willing from what I've heard you say, it seems that it's fine for Russia to be sanctioned, but it's not fine for Israel to be sanctioned. That's what you not said.
Saying that Israel's zone is a gray area that I cannot comment on.
Okay, it's fine. Oh, okay.
Russia and Ukraine, you and I have lived it.
Fine.
It's unacceptable.
Okay, no problem.
I think, don't put me in trouble, brother. Don't put me in trouble.
It's very simple. It's very simple. But finally, on this part of the show, let's also mention the fact that the proposed heavyweight fight between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury faces uncertainty after promoter Frank Warren admitted that the fight could be postponed if both camps fail to agree on a venue. Wembley Stadium was initially favored, but Madison Square Garden in New York is now being considered, with Saudi boxing chief Turki Al-Sheikh reportedly backing the American venue. Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn has warned the fight could be called off if New York is announced without an agreement to move the fight from Britain. However, Warren insists Fury's contract allows the fight to proceed and says the November target date remains unchanged. Now, I'm just shocked how a fight between two of the biggest boxers in Great Britain is going to be taking place in the United States of America. Could be taking place in the United States of America. It's a clear case of money talks and brown stuff walks, if you ask me. Welcome back. You're still watching Game On here on News Central TV. I still have Dikpo Adtoyi with me. Together we'll be talking about Nigerian football now. We hear that Shooting Stars Sports Club of Ibadan have appointed experienced tactician Salisu Yusuf as the club's new technical advisor ahead of the 2026-27 Nigeria Premier Football League season, which begins on the 28th of this month. The appointment comes shortly after the Oluyole Warriors parted ways with head coach Nuruddin Aweroro. Yusuf possesses vast experience in Nigerian football and has previously handled several top clubs and the national team, and now takes charge of Shooting Stars as the club prepares for another challenging NPFL campaign. The team will also make a long-awaited return to the continent after a 27-year absence and have been drawn against Tunisia's CS Sfaxien in the first preliminary round of the CAF Confederations Cup, which takes place next month. Tony, you know Salisu Yusuf quite well. What could he possibly bring to a Shooting Stars team that a lot of people say punched above their weight last season and qualified for the continent in almost 3 decades? What could he possibly bring different that Nuruddin Aweroro didn't have? Let's even start with Nuruddin Aweroro. Were you surprised by the fact that he was let go?
Yeah, I was surprised because I felt he did well. Shooting Stars had been chasing a continental ticket for God knows how long, and he was able to get it in his 4th season. So I felt he had, done enough. to keep the job and be given the opportunity to go on the continent with 3SC. But, you know, as it was for Gbenga Gumbote the season before, when he got fired just a few days to the start of the season, so it has turned out to be for Nuruddin Aweruru. But I think the guy did well. He's done himself a lot of good, and I'm sure he will have a lot of suitors. And he won't stay too long in the labor market. I'm sure a few clubs will be interested in picking him up based on what he was able to do with 3SC last season.
But for Salisu Yusuf Dikpo, what could he possibly bring to Shooting Stars, having in mind the fact that the season starts barely 2 weeks, in 2 weeks' time? They also have a major continental assignment against a very decent North African side. Is this a little too late?
You could say so, but as an insider, I know very well that Shooting Stars wanted to make this move, and they should have made this move already. They were lucky to get this position. If Rangers wasn't in place to win the league on that last day, they wouldn't have been too motivated to win in Lagos, and Shooting would have been out of the continental space. You must also understand that as an insider, the Shooting Stars management believe that they need a voice that can stabilize the team, that can, you know, help these players grow. They have lost, if I'm not wrong, 5 or 6 of their starters. You know, I'm concerned about how they're going to go. Their best defender, who was probably one of the best defenders in the league, Alamin, he's now off. They just sold a striker to Egypt. They are down Tijani, who has now gone to Ranchers Bees.
Their creative midfielder, Junior Ayobami, has also gone to Algeria.
Yes,
it's a depleted team.
So they're a depleted side. But you must give Governor Sheyi Makinde credit. You know, we saw it trending. He said he was going to do this before he left, and he supported the chairman, who, in my opinion, has done a great job with the sporting director, Toby. Don't forget, Toby and Awerero were in Ikorodu City together, right? Awerero was also promoted in a similar fashion with Toby, and obviously they were in Shooting Stars together. So I think that they will do well. I'm not sure that they will make it to the top 3 as at today with their recruitment and the losses particular. And that's the thing about a good side, right? You lose a lot of your good players when you recruit very well. And obviously they played a decent style of football last season. But I'm betting on our, I'll call our elder, you know, Gasali to stabilize the team. They didn't do so well in the Value Jet Cup. They are in just next week for the Super 6. And I'm expecting them to have, you know, improved training methods, improved outcomes under Ogasalisu.
Okay, well, we'll be wishing Shooting Stars all the very best. We'll be keeping a close eye on their campaign in the MPFL and on the continent this season, because Shooting Stars is one of Nigeria's most formidable and historic sides.
Brother.
What?
Are you going to be in Ibadan for the first leg?
Yes, I think yes. Yes, we'll definitely be there. But we hear that the first leg might actually take place either in Abeokuta or at the Remo Star Stadium in Ikene Remo. So we're not sure exactly, but either way it is, we will definitely be there. Now, I hope the phone lines are open now, because this is a particularly contentious issue, and we are looking for ways to basically untie this Gordian knot. The Nigerian Football Federation has constituted a fact-finding committee to investigate the recent poor performances of the country's national teams, particularly the Super Falcons' failure to qualify for the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup. The Falcons, who are 10-time African champions and current WAFCON holders, exited the tournament in Morocco at the quarterfinal stage before losing 2-1 to South Africa in a playoff for an an interconfederation playoff ticket. Now, that defeat means Nigeria will miss the Women's World Cup for the first time since the tournament began in 1991. The Flying Eagles also suffered disappointment, losing 4-1 to Burkina Faso in the WAFU B Under-20 final and missing out on the 2027 Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations. We hear that former NFF Secretary General Fani Amu will chair the committee. Ladan Boso is there as well. Desire Paradozie, 4-time WAFCON winner and former captain of the Super Falcons. Mutiu Adepoju, another legendary player with the Super Eagles of Nigeria and a CAF Pro license holder. And Alex Maina are the other members of the committee. Now, the phone lines are open. In your opinion, is this the best way to look forward to basically sort out the problems bedeviling the Nigerian Football Federation? Tony, someone said that this is basically taking Panadol for HIV or Panadol for cancer, because the problems that are besetting the Nigerian Football Federation, that this 6-man committee, they can't solve it. It might probably need the Supreme Court or maybe even the Senate or maybe even FIFA itself to unravel it. In your opinion, is this the first step towards a proper resolution of Nigeria's football problems, or is this basically playing to the gallery, giving people basically misdirection, letting them focus on something else while they are continuing to focus on the upcoming elections?
You know, Tunde, I have a different opinion to all of this.
Okay.
We all know what the problems are with Nigerian football.
We do.
We all know.
We all do,
So,
including the Federation.
Nobody needs to tell us or find the facts for us on what the problems are with Nigeria. We all know what the problems are.
Okay.
So where there is a challenge is the political will, you know, to solve those problems. That's where the issues are. Self-interest overrides national interest in solving some of these problems. So nobody needs to tell us that it's not rocket science, as one of my late mentors, Deji Tinubu, would say. He would say it's not rocket science. But when he got into the NFF and there were so many problems, the day I met him, I said, bros, it doesn't look like rocket science now.
It's nuclear physics now.
So, yeah, so we know what the problems are. Forget about whether there's a fact-finding committee or not. The problems, this big issue is, are we ready to tell ourselves the truth and solve our problems? So this fact-finding committee, what are they supposed to do? Find out why the Falcons lost? Is there any committee finding out why the under-20 have not been, you know, doing well in the last couple of years, or the under-17s, you know,
or the under-23,
or our clubs, or the 23s not going to the Olympics, or our clubs crashing out in the preliminary rounds of CAF continental competitions, you know? Have we had those kind of committees? So nobody needs to tell us anything about the fact-finding or anything. We know what the problems are.
Okay, so
it is for us to make moves to tell ourselves the truth and get to work and have the political will to solve those problems.
Okay, so Dickball, some people are saying that the political will might include what some have described as scorched-earth policy, that we must do this the hard way, that there are no shortcuts, that we should basically announce the government should basically shut down the Nigerian Football Federation and basically take the resultant FIFA ban with our full chest and go about rebuilding Nigerian football in that time where we are undergoing that ban, in order so we can come back stronger, more resilient, and even, fit for purpose. Do you agree with this drastic idea?
That's too extreme. But I don't know why Uncle Tony is being political in his responses. Maybe he has plenty big friends in high places like I do. But let's be factual. At this particular junction, we need to tell ourselves the truth. The chairman of the NSC or DG should demand that the NFF leadership in total resign. It's pretty simple. It's not a difficult thing. Let's not deceive ourselves. It's bad where we are in Nigeria. And like Uncle Tony just listed, just look at the grassroots. It's not going to get better, right? I don't know why Alozie is playing. I can go on because I'm very upset. Like, you're watching the game, you're really irritated. You know, you're even watching the playoffs, and Alozie is costing us, and she's playing game in, game out. We don't have any better left back that we could have even tried. You know, you don't have stadiums like Uncle just said. You don't have balls. You don't have... Like, the governors probably need to come into this. I mean, I have a recommendation for them if they'll take it. But I think the NFF should demand that the leadership of the NFF... the NSC, right? The Sports Commission should demand that the NFF leadership just codedly, so that we don't need that ban, right? It's not difficult work. And, you know, somebody was saying it today. Look at what our Egbon and our daddy, Honorable Shoname, has done in Remo. This man is using his own personal funds to do that. Here, a sovereign nation, a wealthy nation. You have a Dangote who wanted to buy Arsenal, who is printing money in his refinery. You have a Bua with Honorable Samad doing the same thing. You have billionaires who can easily say, okay, look, how many stadiums do we need to build? We'll give you part of that money. Let the government put there. Like, you can build these things. You have people who love football, but they use our football for personal interest, to play politics. Do you know how embarrassing it is for me as a Nigerian to not go to the World Cup both at the male level in the US now and the female level in Brazil, Nigeria.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. It's interesting you say that, Dipo, because I do believe that just last year, former Super Falcons coach Randy Waldrum warned the authorities of Nigeria that it was coming, that very soon Nigeria would even struggle to qualify for the FIFA World Cup. And he was speaking to Eagles Tracker last year, which I think it's a website, and he said that he blamed the NFF's lack of investment, planning, and proper preparation, that it will see Nigeria fall behind continental powers. Let's take a listen to what Randy Waldrum said in that interview.
And there's going to come a day they're not even going to qualify for the World Cup if they're not careful, because the other African countries are starting to invest more and put more into it, and eventually it's going to catch up, you know, with Nigeria. So that would be my concern moving forward for Nigeria, is that too many people just think it's going to happen because you're Nigeria, you know, and it's not that way anymore. I mean, there are too many good countries in Africa that are starting to invest. So.
Right, gentlemen, you heard that. You heard it very clearly. The man didn't mince words. This is an outsider who saw the problem a long time ago. So is it that we were not seeing the issues, or we are focusing on the wrong things? Because there are those who are saying that it's just this, what is happening now are basically the symptoms of a problem that goes far back, as far back as 3 decades ago. So Adipo said that the Nigerian Football Federation Executive Committee should resign en masse. What will this solve? Because the elections are coming up next month, and if you carry out these elections again, you will still choose the same people from within the same circle, and nothing will change.
I mean, they threw a shade at me that maybe I have friends in high places and I don't, you know, but it's okay.
Dipo also has friends in high places. Don't mind him. They are both in the same boat.
But the reality is what you have said, Tunde. Is this the first time that there's been a dissolution of the NFF Executive Committee?
No.
No, this is not the first time. Did we get a different result? No. You know, so that's why I'm a little different. The way the football ecosystem or the football governance structure in Nigeria is set up, you will get the same of the same, which is why, you know, I join my voice with that of Segun Adegboyemi that there should be a change in the governance structure and the instrument of football administration in Nigeria. But we missed the window, you know. Earlier in the year, there was a statute review session by the Nigerian Football Federation. I felt that that was a good opportunity for us to insist on what we're doing now. Now, it appears it's a little too late to make any more change because the date has been set, a whole lot of procedures have gone in, and we may have direct conflict with FIFA if we seek a change right now.
Wait,
you know,
Tony, are you not being a bit too optimistic? You are asking, or maybe I should dig for this question. Isn't Tony being a bit too optimistic? He's thinking that the members of the executive committee or the Nigerian Football Congress will amend statutes that currently benefit them. I'm not sure that's going to work. It's like asking the Nigerian legislature to reduce their salaries, which hasn't happened.
Let me tell you how this would work. You see, once the Nigerian football structure, the Congress and the Executive Committee become comfortable, there is very little you can do. But when there is a little bit of discomfort, the Eagles have failed to qualify for the World Cup, or 2022, when we failed to qualify for the World Cup, that was an opportunity for us to ring an overhaul of the football system. But once you lost that opportunity, and you allow things to go on, and there's an executive committee in place, and there's no dispute within the executive committee and the Congress, there's always going to be a problem trying to change things. You understand? Because they have the backing of FIFA, they are united, there is no division amongst them, and it is difficult for the ministry or the sports commission to try to tell them to resign.
Basically, what I'm getting from both of you now is that nothing is going to happen and nothing will change. That's what I'm getting from you now, Dipo, Anthony.
Is against, like I said, speaking to his audience, I don't really care for that.
Wow.
To change, FIFA is not our problem. FIFA is not our problem. The NSC chairman, right, has to do the difficult thing. He has to dissolve that board.
But is that not government interference that they've been shouting to us for the past decade that government must not interfere with football? Is that, okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, sorry.
For the next 10 years or 15 years, FIFA has no right to talk about government interference. They've shown us with the US government, they've shown us that they've been behind the back deals with Sepp Blatter and Platini. Excuse me, these men are Nigerian citizens. We have a problem. We have an internal problem. And government interference, government is us. Government is defined as for the people, by the people. I need better leaders. Let's be very, very frank, right? And this is not the kind of thing that I would love to talk about in public. People who know me, because yes, I do have friends. The reality is that the governors and the senators and the presidency need to step in and help us. Someone like the son of the president, this is the greatest opportunity he has to establish even the benefits of a city boy movement. I just talked about Dangote and Samad of Bua. This is where he can use his billionaire friends to say a stadium in each state. Right? Because the problem is that the guys who are in the glass house are being backed by people who largely may not know what is going on, who largely only get to hear that, oh, Nigeria, they play today, and Nigeria is playing in different languages, and they watch. And then we all talk about these problems and how we couldn't go to the World Cup now for what? Back to back years?
Yes.
Let's be very, very frank of what the reality is. The reality is that somebody at the top needs to make a harsh decision. Now, do I like how it was done in, maybe was it Jonathan's tenure, the PDP tenure was the last time we had that kind of thing, and Nelly Ban and all those things? No. Well, you can come to a consensus. We fund them. We, the people, our taxes or the federal government funds the NFF.
Okay, so
dissolve all governors, dissolve all your state FAs, and find private sector young men or women to run your FAs. Those are the people who constitute the NFF. Why are we beating around the bush on the problem? I'm in my 30s. I have never been to a World Cup. We're not there's no hope. Okuto is here speaking politics. Let's say the truth. Let's say the truth.
I see you're quite passionate about this, but we can't exhaust it right now, gentlemen. So we really need to move on. But it's interesting when the US president can call FIFA to have a red card rescinded. That was not government interference. But if the Nigerian government decides to ban the Nigerian Football Federation in order to clean the organ stables, that is government interference. It's basically animal farm. Some animals are more equal than others.